Dude, honestly, as much as what we do, like we need technology. Technology can suck.
I hate it. Dude, hate it. Same with like social media and everything. It's like, God damn it, do I just hate it? But I have to have it for my job. Like it's free marketing. Like I have to do it.
Isn't it weird though? Like I enjoy it because like I get to put out my work and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like I almost just like I've been really terrible at posting lately. I just kind of put up my stuff and let it sit until basically the next episode. Or if I'm at the gym and I feel myself and I'm like, all right, snap photo, post it, but usually those end up on the story. So I don't know.
Dude, I've definitely just taken a step back from social media. Like I told you right before we started the podcast, like I just deactivated my Twitter. Not really for any reason, but it's just, I just spent so much time on it and that place is toxic. And I just feel like I'm turning into, back in like, I don't know, back in 15, 16, you used to see people that weren't active on social media, but like, we're in the same field as us and just like, why don't you post? Like, why aren't you active on here? And now I'm like, oh, I totally get it. Like, oh yeah, I barely post anything personal anymore. And if I do, it's like maybe on my story, but even on Instagram, like I haven't posted in God, so long. Like I think the last video I posted was Lamb of God from Rockville. And that was like the beginning of November. And I really haven't posted on my story either. I'm just trying to take a step back and like also just, I've been way busier than normal, which I mean, I'm always busy, but lately I just feel like I've had so much work pile on. So I've just been kind of like, keeping to myself and trying to figure out that. And also, dude, coming off of like 14 weeks of touring and then into back home again, it's like the post-tour depression and like getting back into like a routine of being home while being busy is like nearly impossible. So like I have been going through it lately.
So, I mean, because I've been there too, the post-tour stress. I mean, I don't think I've been on a 14-week stretch, but there's the Warped Tours, or like there was one where I had like three in a row, but it wasn't 14 weeks. But, the longer you're out, the more, that post-tour, depression hits. How do you kind of go with it? Because I mean, if anyone is listening that's like fresh off a tour and they don't know what the fuck is going on, they're like, dude, how am I supposed to buy food? I don't have a PD. Like, where's my buyout? Like, weird things like that you kind of on the road take for I for sure took for granted my like buyouts and shit. Like, what do you do about it? Like, how do you kind of cope with not the money aspect? That was just an example, but like how do you deal with that?
Well, I'll preface it by saying the weird thing about starting tour again after not touring since COVID was, dude, there was a whole hump I had to get over when I first even started touring again, because which is weird because I guess I've been someone since like pretty much I graduated high school. Like I just stayed on the road. So when I came home from tour, I didn't really have a life developed outside of touring because when I came home, I was just waiting for the next tour to happen. So when COVID hit, I kind of discovered who I was outside of touring.
Okay.
And so I had not that I didn't have a life before outside of touring, but, it was very far and few between. I came home, but now I had a year and a half, almost 2 years to be at home.
Build those relationships.
I had hobbies, I had relationships, I had, a bunch of stuff. And so then when I went back on tour and I was so excited to go back on tour and just ready to get back to my job and make money and whatever. And then it's like, I got back on tour and I was like, oh, fuck, like this is way more intense than I remember it being. And it's like, because I haven't been in a groove in so long. So there was like a whole hump I had to get over with that, which luckily got over that in like a week or whatever. But dude, when I was on tour, I just hit that groove and like weeks flew by, months flew by. Like it was great. And I came home and it was like, I had to deal with I was lucky because when I came home, I instantly went into 2 more projects that were wake up early, all day on set, running and picking up equipment, things like that. So I had Rockville, which was like the band that I tour manage, Wage War, they were headlining on day 2. Gojira played day 1, and Lamb of
Damn.
God played day 3. So, and
Busy.
it was in Daytona. Yeah, it was in Daytona, so I could drive there every day. So I drove, and picked people up along the way, or like drove equipment back, or like helped out where I could, especially with Wage War. It was,
Yeah.
went right into rehearsals, and then that, and then right when I got done with that, started prepping for it actually premieres tonight, Saturday, because we're recording this on the 11th. Trivium live from the hangar.
Okay.
I would directed they're doing like a In Waves 10-year anniversary, like live playthrough from their airplane hangar that they bought. But anyways, getting
hold on
off
real
track.
quick. So well, obviously you said we're recording this episode, today, Saturday, the 11th. You said that comes out today.
Yeah, that comes out tonight. It premieres tonight. Like, I think the live stream starts at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I know there's like a pre-show set,
like
from
Eastern, or
yeah. So
okay.
I think it's in a few hours.
Hell yeah, sick. I'll have to try and tune in for sure.
Yeah, and and they're doing that today, and then next Saturday they premiere the other one, which is like 5 or 6 songs from 2 of their albums that we did. But it was like I got to direct all that and hire and bring all the team in, and set all that up. So I was super busy, and have really, I'm still getting accounting and stuff done for that, but I've been able to keep myself busy. And then now that I'm kind of done, it's like that post-tour depression hits of just like, waking up and not really knowing what to do at all. Like, but having a million things you can do, but kind of like not being able to just really focus and do anything. And then it's like, get used to, okay, like I have to go to the grocery store and buy groceries. I can't DoorDash everything, because that's what I was doing for the past like a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So it's okay, I actually have to go be an adult and like go and do all this stuff. And it's just weird because on tour, you don't have to do any of that stuff. Like, on even some of the bigger tours I've done, it's like, if you want something, you can write it on the bus rider.
Exactly.
Like, there is a rider just for the bus.
And someone gets it. It magically appears.
Someone goes and gets it. Yeah, crazy. And it's like, and no money out of your pocket. And you're like, this is great. Every day you get handed $20 or whatever. It's like, oh, great, I can go eat food. It's like, you're home and you're like, oh, shit. Like, I gotta go do like stuff, like even put gas in my truck and like,
oh my God, yeah,
go like to the doctors, and like I just stuff that like on tour you're like, oh, okay, I'll get to that when I get home. And it's like, okay, now you're home, you have to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a lot. So yeah, I'm still getting over that hump, honestly, but it's it's a day by day thing. So just trying to like get back into it. But now I'm back on the, every month or so I'm going to leave because I already have stuff in January. So it's like, now I'm just waiting for the holidays to be over so then I can go back on tour. And I'm already, like I have a show next weekend with Wage War. We have a holiday show here in Orlando at the House of Blues. Damn. So it's like next week I have rehearsals with them, and then we have the show, and then it's like really only 3 weeks off before we start rehearsals for the next tour. So it's I'm glad to be busy again. It's just now I'm like, okay, I really have to focus on like, how much touring I actually want to do and how much is going to be good for my mental health, because I can't go 14 weeks in a row anymore. Like that was just crazy. And it was just, and like, I could still be out right now if I wanted to be. Like I turned down so much stuff, but it's like, I knew I had to come home and like reset a little bit. Cause if I didn't, I was going to literally go crazy. But I can't be doing that anymore. Like I can be, but it's like for my mental health, I don't want to be anymore. And plus now that I've taken on more like directing projects, and like, I want to be available to take those on. And I don't want to be like, oh, I'm just the touring guy. Cause that's how so many,
very limited.
Well, yeah. And I talk to managers and they just are like, oh, I just assume you always like to tour. And I'm like, no, like I'm down to do stuff off of tour. So it's like, now I've been getting into those discussions and hopefully doing more of those things next year. But
so is that kind of what you want to do a little bit more? I mean, like obviously have those options to tour, and, as long as you can, tour, you'll tour, but kind of bridge the gap into maybe start doing more of the directing and all of that stuff. And then maybe for the fun times, you just like, yeah, I'll hop on a tour. Let's go.
Yeah. I was telling people this, I kind of want to be more project oriented. Like, and I mean by that is, if I'm going to go on tour with, let's just say, Lamb of God, I'm going on tour with them for 2 weeks to capture a specific amount of content for a specific project that we're doing. I don't really want to go on tour anymore and just be, oh, come be the content guy and like give us
Yeah.
content every day and post. And it's like, that's cool. I know how to do that. I'm good at that. But I want to work on bigger projects, and I think taking that, because I mean, during the pandemic and everything, it's like, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like I knew I kind of wanted to move in a director role, but I really didn't know like what that took or like what mentally needed to like happen or what I had to learn to like be confident to be able to do that. And then when last year during the pandemic, I got the opportunity through Motionless and White. They were like, hey, we want you to come and direct our live stream. And it was the first time I had ever, gotten to do a project that size or like have the option to hire on a crew or have a budget as big as I did or, be in control of pretty much every video aspect of the show. And I did that and it came out so well. And I was so accomplished by it. And I was just like, this is what I want to do. And since then, I've gotten more gigs, especially with Trivium, because I'm here in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
So it just makes sense for me to do their content, but they also love the stuff I put out. So, and it's a great working relationship. I love all those guys. So it makes sense to move in that direction because I don't want to limit myself with just being a touring guy. I think that's, it's the same thing we talked about on the couple last podcasts we've done where it's like, you can't just be a photo guy. You have to be a photo and video guy or person. I'm not trying to be gender specific, but you know what I mean? Like, like if you're going to go out on tour, you need to be able to do both. And if you don't, you're limiting yourself. And I feel like with touring, it's like, it's a great way to get, I've been touring for almost 10 years now. And it's like, it's been great. I've learned so much. I've built up a reputation. I've made my contacts, my clientele, everything. And now I want to move on to the next step of that, which for me would be moving into more of a director role and overseeing bigger projects and bigger things like that. I think that's where I want to head. And I think that's where I'm going to be pushing to keep my life going in that direction, at least for the time being, until something else comes up.
Do you think, I mean, with the whole progression of how touring has been treated in like the creative way of, photographers and videographers, I mean, for example, when I first started, and I'm sure it was with you too, I was doing like 3 to 5, maybe even like as long as 8-minute YouTube videos. Of course, there was the limitations of, you could only post like a 15-second video on Instagram. That's the time it was. But, that's how, when I first started, it was YouTube videos. You were doing full ass videos. And then obviously like, Instagram had more capabilities of duration of videos and et cetera, et cetera. And what you were just saying about now, you're going to help yourself a lot if you can be, a photographer and videographer. And then what you were saying, instead of just being, going on tour and just create content, which is what I've been doing. There's been some times where projects, but like with the bands that you're going out with, like they have the specific content that they want. And it's like a project that you're putting together. You know exactly what you need to get day by day instead of just like thinking of, oh, that's a cool shot, I'm going to get that. So like the progression of how touring, I feel, has gone, it's only just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And like, but I feel like 10 years from now, tour videos are going to start being like these cinematic, like Gibson Hazard. Everyone's going to be Gibson Hazard. Do you kind of understand what I'm saying? It's a weird tangent to go on.
I do. I mean, here's the thing is like, I think our generation is so unique. And like in our age range, because we have been around for everything. We remember MySpace and we're all the way to TikTok now. And it's like, okay, so think about it in like, I was only, because you started touring in high school, right?
So I graduated high school in 2010. And I believe my first tour could have been late 2010 or early 2011. So like when you started touring, because you were like just 2 years ahead of me. When you started touring, it was about YouTube. It was about tour updates. It was about the not long-winded, but compared to now, the long-winded, episodes showing tour life. And when I started touring, it was still like that as well. My first couple tours I did, it was all, tour updates 1 through 10 or whatever. But, we slowly started to merge into
Instagram, and then 15-second videos were the one. And, for the last couple years now, we really haven't seen tour updates. And if we do, they're, far and few between, and they're either really well put together, or it looks like something that, me and you were doing back in 2011, 2012. It's like it's on a good camera, but it might not be edited any like cinematic way or anything that looks unique. It's just kind of there. So, I think that's the progression that we're seeing. And like, we've just been through everything. I mean, now it's like content creators are going on tour and they have to learn how to, use TikTok and how you transform putting, something shot on like a Sony or, a Blackmagic or anything, and transforming that into a TikTok, but while also keeping it engaging for people, because it's just crazy where social media is at now, and crazy what people have to do now in order to like go on tour and, be a video and photo person. And like, that's great. And the people that I see up and coming or that are touring and doing that now, it's like they're killing it. It's like, for me, I don't know if I really want to necessarily make that curve to like trying to relearn stuff that I've already learned the past 10 years. I'd rather just move forward in my personal career, and instead of trying to pivot in the touring world, I think I'm just going to try to be more project oriented and work on bigger projects I want to, and let the social media managers that manage whatever band or artist or company I'm shooting for or working for, let them kind of handle that stuff.
That makes, a lot of sense. And I mean, how you were saying that you don't want to like follow wherever touring goes, have to relearn different things just to kind of stay in the game. You want to go on your own path, which is, doing the directing and the bigger projects. But by doing that, I think you probably Jar, D'Amelia, the select few, Tran, they do some project based stuff on tour, which is pretty cool because you don't really see the everyday videos or something like that. It's more put together projects and stuff like that. So I think by you guys doing, especially yourself, doing, your own route and wanting to do those bigger projects and the, directing and stuff outside of touring, I do think that is going to be shaping the way that touring will be kind of dealt with, down the road, because, bands and managers and everything is going to see that work from you guys and be like, okay, well, we want that.
Yeah. And I think that's where everything needs to be headed to. Like, and Jar and Trav are really good examples of like doing certain projects on tour. And I think this past stretch was the first time I had really done any kind of projects on tour. Like, for example, like when I was on tour with Gojira, there was a night that we were in, where was it? Oh yeah, Richmond. And Randy from Lamb of God had done a song with them like 15 years ago on an album, and they've never played it live. Well, he came out and performed it live for the first time ever, at that show. So I scrounged up a few video people like Knock Blue Sky, Easter Daily, and some of the other guys that were on tour that, had cameras but weren't necessarily shooting or anything. I got them together and, we shot, maybe had like 5 or 6 different camera angles, including some GoPros, and, made a music video out of it with the actual live audio. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that's coming out soon. Maybe it's already out. I don't know. I haven't really looked, but, hopefully it is coming out soon, but even if it doesn't, we filmed it for there. But that was a lot of fun, in my day-to-day, to just, instead of working on last night's video, or just like, because it gets so mundane after a while, it just gets so repetitive. Because it's like, okay, cool, another city, like, yeah, you put out a couple, Instagram videos, with cool effects and all that, and it's like, okay, cool. The tour gets marketed, it looks great and everything, but after a while it's just like, oh man, like I'm running out of ideas, especially with a band. Like, they're great and they have great visuals, but it's the same show every night, and that's not anyone's fault. It's just, for me, there's nothing new that comes. It's not like in the days where me and you would like tour in a van with like these hardcore bands, because there'd be different shit every night that could happen, unexpected stuff that happened. Like at these bigger shows, everything's so pre-programmed out, and just the only thing different is like maybe the crowd gets a little wilder, or maybe they don't, whatever. So it's fun to be able to do certain projects like that and not just have to go through the same old, like, okay, another tour update. And then, when I got it done, it was great. And, Also on that tour, I filmed an interview with Joe from Gojira and ended up like being on Adult Swim, which is
I saw you post about that.
insane. Yeah, which was insane. Like,
Congrats on that.
super
That's sick.
cool. Yeah, it was so unexpected that I was just like the TM came and was like, "Hey, we need to film Joe for this little segment about blah blah blah." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I like set up a little thing in the green room, and he came in and we chatted for a little bit. And he gets so shy on camera, so I had to like pull my actual interviewer out and ask questions around what I wanted to know, so he would eventually answer it. Which is also a fun thing I've gotten into recently, like being more just fluent in interviews and like knowing how to direct somebody, especially if they don't give the answers the way that you want them to. Anyways, filmed it for him, sent it over, and I was like, here it is. He's like, all right, cool. And got sent an email, and it was like, this will be premiering on Adult Swim on this day. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what? I was like, that was cool. But again, another little project thing I got to work on tour and do it. And it wasn't just photos or video. It was like, specific thing. And that's what I like doing on tour. But I feel like more bands have to do that, because now I just don't feel like social media is the same. It's definitely not the same as it was even 3 years ago. But I feel like people just putting out tour updates and stuff, it's not enough. Like, people want to see more content. People are hungry and their attention spans are so short now that it's like people want to see music videos on the tour. They now want to see the longer form tour updates. Weird? It's weird. Yeah, it's so weird.
I will say the whole thing with, how, doing, myself photo and video, there's still those tours where, towards the end, you're just like, I don't know how else can't think of any other way to capture this damn song or whatever. I'm done. Like, can't do it. Like, I've run all ideas. But the cool thing of having, doing the photo and video is, say, something's going to happen every night. Usually you can choose, be like, all right, well, I'm going to try and take a photo of that today. And then maybe tomorrow at this cooler venue, I'm going to film it. I'll do video. And that way you can kind of like spice it up a little bit and not kind of keep your, you can keep your sanity a little bit instead of just like, if you're just doing photo. And by the way, if you are a touring photographer listening and you just do photo or you just do video, that's not anything we're saying is like you suck, you got to do both. Like, obviously if you tour and you're doing one thing, it means you're good enough to do it, but try and bring those other things in, because then you get to see a different realm of the photo turned to life in video, or like a GIF of it or something like that, or
and
vice
you also
versa.
I think you also open yourself up to having more of a clientele if you even need it. Yeah, if you're doing photo on tour and just doing photo and killing it, fucking tell us to fuck off. Like, we don't know what we're talking about.
But do it nicely.
But if you're trying to build, a little nice. Yeah. But if you're struggling to get clientele or want bigger clientele, just know that the more you offer, the more value you have. And like I said, if you're just doing photo, then by all means, because like my friend Paris does just photo on tour, and she kills it. She doesn't do video at all, and I'm just like, hell yeah, you go, girl. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. To each their own, but I think the way that the world is going with social media, you got to at least do something. Pull your damn phone out and make the band a TikTok or something. Like, it's crazy. And I am curious about the whole long. What's the word I'm looking for? There's everyone's attention is super small, but also people are really liking music videos. I feel like this year, pandemic did a lot for that, but the long form videos, they're coming back, music videos, stuff like that. Huge, but also at the same time, they want to see something as fucking cool as a long music video in 10 seconds. So like trying to get both of that on tour in the mayhem of sweating in the photo pit, getting kicked by, crowd surfers, and trying not to like blow your face off with, the CO2 guns and all that stuff. Like, it's just weird. And I trying to think about where it's going to go, and I have no idea.
Yeah, it's definitely weird to think about, because the long form videos are coming back, but they have to be done the right way. Like, if you see how 21 Pilots just did theirs, I thought that was great. It was episodic, and they released it every, I think, week or something like that. Also, that tour alone. Do you know about that tour, what they did?
No. I'm first off, I'm gonna have to go watch those videos. But no,
Yeah.
fill me in.
So the concept of their tour was so cool. So it was obviously they're 21 Pilots. They sell out arenas.
Yeah.
They would spend like 3 or 4 days in every city playing the smallest venue up to the arena. So like in Columbus, they did like the arena, and then the night before they did Express Live. And the night before they did what was it, like Newport Music Hall or whichever the smaller one is in Columbus. But like, you know, that's kind of like if they were doing it in LA, they'd probably do like Chain Reaction one night, and then maybe like House of Blues the next night, and then maybe like a step up from that, and then the arena. And I thought it was such a cool concept. So it's like you have to have like 4 different stage setups. You have to be prepared for like 4 different levels of security for shows, like a band that big. Just it's so interesting. But the way they did their stuff was cool because it was cinematic. It told a story, and it was like suspenseful. Like it was cool. It's also cool to see Sky in there doing his thing in 21 Pilots now. So
that's gonna be sick.
Yeah, but yeah, you should take a look at that. But I mean, I guess if you're with a band like that, I don't know if they had 2 shooters or 1 shooter out there. I mean, I know Ashley Osborne was out there. I don't think she was doing any video, but I could be wrong. I don't know. But you know, when you're with a band of that size, it's probably a little bit easier to create that kind of content. Whereas if you're touring with, you know, maybe a smaller hardcore band, there may not be a whole lot to even, you know, capture, or it all depends on the members too. If the members are into you doing stuff like that, you know, then yeah, it could be worthwhile. But if you tour with a band, because I've done it a few times, just tour with a band who don't really care if you're there or not. Like they know you're there to do content and they like having you around, but they're not gonna sit there and like create content with you or give you ideas or give you a direction. It's just kind of like, hey, come out here and do this, or management put me on the tour, so it's like, hey, you know, you're fine being here, but you know, we're not really gonna cooperate with anything outside of you capturing our show. So it's sometimes it's harder, sometimes it's easier. It just kind of depends.
Yeah, it's crazy because I mean I haven't toured since I think my last tour was end of October 2019. So like, you know, I've been out of the game, or, you know, air quotes, retired, if you can retire from touring. It feels like so weird to say, but you know, I follow people on social and stuff like that. And, you know, the select few, like, you know, the people I've already mentioned, yourself and a bunch more, obviously there's too many names to really count. Like, you know, it's cool to see the progression. I'm just looking forward to see what's kind of, you know, what's going to come of it. I mean, tour is coming back pretty strong. I see less and less tours being canceled because COVID that I've seen personally. You know, like there's got to be some crazy shit besides what we've talked about before, you know, earlier with, you know, more of project-based tour content. But as far as like with technology getting crazy as far as cameras and lenses and, you know, drones are getting more, you know, affordable, editing software, you know, effects. I'm kind of curious to see, like, I want to see some like mind blowing shit. Like, I no longer really care about the 360 fucking GoPro. I don't care. What's next? You know, it's cool, but like, it was cool when fucking I get it. Sam Shapiro did it like 2 years ago, you know, and that's not shade at all.
Yeah.
He kills it. I'm just saying, like,
as far as technology goes, it's been done. So next? We don't want to see that as being something that's revolutionary. Yeah, I totally understand
and
that.
Sam,
yeah, to be honest, man, I don't. You know,
I just got to make sure. Like,
I love Sam.
I would love to have my own 360 GoPro. I've seen it enough. There's only so much you can do with it. That's all.
I get it. And like, because when it first came out and the footage was out there, it was like cool because it was unique. And now it's like, okay, it's still cool, but it's like, we want to see more uniqueness out of it. But I don't know, man. I think it's really going to come down to like, there's a few people touring with like, you know, the smaller, like, I feel like such a hypocrite in a way, because when I was like, you know, 2013, 14, I'm sure you're the same way. It's like, dude, I knew everything going on in our music scene, like all the beef, all the whatever, like a little bit too much. Like, but you know, I knew all of it and I kept up. I knew when bands were releasing new music. I knew, you know, pretty much every band that was in our scene, you know, or at least had heard of them. So could put like a face or a, you know, band image to a name. And now I'm just so out of the loop, and but the things I do see coming from, like, I'm going to guess these up and comers. I mean, dude, some of the stuff is sick. Like, I'm really hoping that they end up taking off or, you know, getting bigger gigs or landing bigger gigs, but it's almost becoming the standard. And I think that's where we're going to see a big change is you're going to have bands, especially the up and coming ones that are the ones that are probably going to take over for all of these legends that are touring right now. I mean, you take like a Rob Zombie and like a Slipknot, and it's like, yeah, they're still touring and like they're still killing it, but they're not going to be doing it forever. So I think the bands like Motionless in White, you know, that's going to be a band that, you know, takes the spots of those bands that will eventually die out. But and the thing with Motionless is they make sure that they take out good people and that their content is top notch, and they have to, because they understand that it's a part of the game. If you're not getting your stuff shown on social media, you're not doing it the right way. And that's why I think we see tours and bands that, you know, go on tours and it's like people don't even notice because their stuff's not getting around. Like, you have to be producing content and being engaging. And like, that's just the way the game's going to work. And you're either going to adapt to it and hire on people to come out and actually take care of that stuff. Make sure you have a good social media manager, make sure you have the right people on your team, or it's just not going to succeed. I think the way that some bands were able to squeeze by and get away with not having that much stuff and kind of having like a little mystery or whatever to them has worked for so long. But, you know, even look at a band like Gojira, they will always bring somebody out with them. They constantly were telling me I was such a vital part of their, you know, of their tour, which I disagree with, but they're legends. So whatever.
You're like, I'll take it.
You know, I'll take the compliment. Don't think it's warranted, but you know what? If you respect me that much, then
for sure.
Then hell yeah. But it's just stuff like that. Like, people have to make that switch, and people have to be willing to have somebody out there and putting the money towards having someone out to create content or just get content out. And I mean, like, even now I work with some bands where it's like we talk about the dead time between not tour, like when they're not touring, maybe recording a new album. And it's like, okay, what kind of content can we gather throughout the next 3 months of touring? So that way, when you guys do go and take, you know, 2 months off to be with family, we can still push content as if, you know, you're still putting stuff out. I mean, dude, Trivium is a prime example. Like, there is never dead. They always have something coming up. They always have something they're working on, and it's always on social media. Like this Hangar thing has been promoted for weeks now. And then before that, it was, you know, playthroughs and moving to the Hangar and like just, and then they had a show in Orlando. Like, they're constantly doing stuff. There's never any dead time where it's like, oh, well, you know, after 2 months, a post of like, oh, hey, this is what our next tour is. It's like they constantly keep their fan base engaged with them. And that's just how it has to be from now on in the entertainment world, especially seeing as how we just had it taken away for 2 years. People either have to take it seriously, or I don't think they're going to be able to just slide by anymore. But I mean, the fuck do I know?
Yeah, dude, what the fuck? You know, you don't know
what
shit.
The fuck? Yeah.
Man, there's so many things that I like. As you're talking, I'm like, oh, I gotta ask about that. Oh no, I gotta ask that. You know, it's just right over my head. I'm like, what the fuck? There's just so much, and like, obviously, I've been detached from the touring world for, you know, since 2019, just from not being on the road. But like, with the whole pandemic and then tours coming back, have you maybe seen a little bit of a, well, it'd be weird, like a drop off on the creative side? Or is it like, well, if there's a drop off, I guess what I'm asking is, do you notice maybe there's more people that are new, like fresh faces on the tour scene, because maybe there might have been some drop off, but with that drop off gave more job opportunities to the, you know, up and coming, you know, content creators?
I've definitely seen more. I think what our music scene right now is lacking is really good creative people who are making content, because, you know, I always get hit up by, you know, friends or people I've met, you know, throughout the years of touring saying, hey, I'm going out with so-and-so. I need a recommendation for someone who does photo video. And I think recently it's been hard to recommend somebody because everybody that's good is booked.
Okay.
And it's just hard to, you know, there's a lot of new creators that are coming up in the scene that just like maybe haven't really found that creative spark yet and haven't like pulled the trigger. Because I remember I toured for like 4 years before I really found that real creative spark that kind of, I think, is the thing that kind of set me apart in what I was doing and got me the gigs that I was getting. And I just think there's a lack of that. But in the same breath, there's also so many newcomers coming up where I'm like, oh, they're not going to be touring at a low level for long. Like unless they are really hard to tour with, they will get gigs from these bigger artists that need them. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people in our music scene that left the music scene and now work and film other places. And I think, to be honest, I mean, I think that's a big reason why I'm trying to be more project oriented, because during the pandemic, I still worked on specific projects, whether it was going to, I went to like Richmond for 2 weeks while Lamb of God did pre-production, and then went to LA while they were recording some stuff, and like did a bunch while they were in the studio recording and while other bands were in the studio recording, or live streams here, live streams there. I stayed busy in the music scene, so like when touring came back, it made sense for me to also go back into that, because it's with the same bands I've been working with in one sense or the other. A lot of people, I think, started doing editing work, started working in different fields. Like I know a few people that went over and do like racing now, and like NASCAR and things like that. And, now with the music scene being, I mean, you know how it is. If you would have asked us in 2018 if you thought the industry would ever shut down, we would have said, no, this will be one of the industries that never shuts down. And it did. So now it's like, okay, well, now I know that like my spot in this world isn't necessarily secure, but I guess no job is really secure when it comes to a pandemic. But I don't know. I think people are leaving, but more people are coming in. And I just think we're going to see that big shift, because it's people like Jar and Anthony and like Amber that are going to go that extra mile now. And they're going to be the people that I guarantee you tour with, pop artists and stuff now, because they have made the transition in our scene and are working that way. And I think now we're going to see for our scene, especially on the smaller side, I think we're going to see a whole fresh wave of new content creators, and it's just kind of reset and be kind of like when me and you got into it, and the people we would see go up and level up and then, maybe skyrocket or go wherever and do their own thing now. And it's like, and then we were like, okay, cool. And like we toured and we built our resumes up, and then we ended up going out and doing stuff. So I think it's just going to be that just natural reset that happens every, I don't know, maybe 10 years or something.
Yeah. So to kind of what you were saying, how it was kind of difficult to, if some band or management, whatever, hit you up and it was like, hey, like, can you recommend someone, for this tour, content creator? You're saying it's been kind of hard because the people, that you would recommend are already busy. What would, some advice that maybe you can give to some of these people that, maybe they just did their first tour this year or something like that, or still are very fresh, and the tours aren't coming in like crazy. Like, what maybe can you tell them that might get them, just for lack of a better way of saying it, on your recommendation list? And before you say anything, obviously, besides the fact of, we said, be able to do photo and video, that's a huge plus. Be project, oriented, like be able to do those projects instead of just random day-to-day, throwaway videos. Besides that, like to land on your kind of recommendation list, what do you think the criteria would be for you?
Well, I'll definitely want to go back and say that a lot of the reason why I can't recommend certain people, or not, okay, that was wrong, not certain people, but why I can't give all these people recommendations is also a point I didn't touch on, is that now with content becoming such a big thing, more bands are wanting people out there. So I feel like before the pandemic, oh my gosh, there were so many people that were like, I really want to tour, like, would constantly hit like me up or like other creators up, or just put on social media and be like, I really want to tour, like blah, blah. I don't see that much anymore because now bands are taking out people because everyone wants to. So I think the supply and demand is definitely like, there's a shortage of people doing content. But to get on, like, I wouldn't even say my radar because I'm not anybody, but like, to get on a radar of somebody that would hire you, or a management team or anyone's radar, is just, you have to make stuff stand out and make sure you're making visually appealing things, or your photos stand out. If I'm scrolling through Instagram or not even scrolling through Instagram, like scrolling through anything where there's, a variety of concert photographers posting their photos, what can you do to make yours stand out? Like what is everybody else doing, and what can you provide that those people aren't providing? So it's definitely one of those things where just you have to make your stuff stand out. And I know that sounds just so like what's the word I'm looking for? Vague, but it's, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you just kind of have to see, what people are doing and look how you can stand
Yeah.
out, because it's the people that stand out that are the reason why, like, people get really big gigs, and why they continually level up, and why they continue to stay on tour and not ever have to worry about getting any kind of tours, because they know that this content they're putting out is very high quality and stuff that bands would want to use, and it's unique. You have to also get people on your side as far as managers and bands that are like, okay, we want to hire you because we know your quality of work. We know what you can give us.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing,
I mean,
to like stand out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, cookie cutter shit will only get you so far, like, and if that's what you're comfortable with, and I don't mean that in a, bad way. I mean, it is what it is. And, if you only want to tour for, like, just because you want to tour and do it for a little bit, like, cool, do whatever, like, find what the trend is, do that. If that's what you
have
want.
to look at it like a job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you can work at a restaurant and you could do the bare minimum and say, well, I'm working in a restaurant, and you're constantly going to stay at a bare minimum. But if you have the goals to be a manager or potentially work higher up in like the actual corporation of whatever restaurant that you're at, those people have goals, and those people have ambitions, and they fight for what they can, and they go the extra mile, and they get to those positions, and it's, I don't know. You just have to want it. I mean, that's the thing, is like, when I was still touring in vans and everything, and like, I was like, man, one day I hope I could just tour in like a bandwagon or a bus. And I wanted it so bad that I worked for it and I got it. And it's like, oh man, like, dude, the fact that I was able to work on a tour and be working with Slipknot on like these past like couple months.
Sick.
It's dude, it's like I had their CD in middle school. Like my
sure.
parents hated me for having it, but it's like, and I had those ambitions of when I was, first starting out touring. I was like, yo, it would be sick to tour with Slipknot. Like that would have been like such it was, but it wasn't, but it was like, that would be such a cool goal to like achieve. And then, it happened, and now I have bigger goals than that and everything. And it's not, I'm not going to say the whole manifestation thing, because I think like you make your own luck, and you make what your life is going to be about. But it's like, you just have to want it, and you have to want to work hard for it. And I feel like that's the difference between people being online complaining that they're not getting any bigger, or complaining they're not getting any opportunities, and then the people who are doing it, they're hustling in silence and letting their work speak for themselves, and also making the connections they have to make along the way. And that's how you have to look at it. Like literally any other job, any other position, you can either be the lowest level and still say you work in that field, or you can work your way up to be the fucking CEO or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just have to want it, and you have to have a good work ethic. And just because it's a unconventional job doesn't mean that you have to be any less motivated, or you have to work any less, or any less hard, or any less.
Oh yeah.
What?
Well,
So huge brain glitch for a second. I was like, am I even speaking English right now? Wait, I don't know any other languages.
Well, it's kind of like, I'm a huge hockey fan, and I mean, for example, and it translates pretty well, I believe. I mean, if you disagree, you can tell me. But like, in hockey, depending on where you live in your schedule, they always talk about how hard the travel is on, the players. Like if you're traveling from, say California to, New York, that's not the best flight ever. Travel takes you, even if you sleep the whole flight, some people are luckier than others, but it takes something out of you traveling all the time. Usually, for my team, the Sharks, they're playing basically every other day. And, they're going from, depending on the schedule, they'll be in California and then a different state, or, et cetera, et cetera. And it's very taxing. And it, sometimes they might lose because the travel is just, it's sometimes gets the best of you. And I think it translates into the touring world, because you're basically in a different state every day. Whether, obviously it's going to be harder if you're in a van versus, a $4 million Prevost. It's different life, both very difficult in its own, but trying to find that way to keep your sanity in that and be creative is a task on its own. Like trying to fall asleep at night.
That's why touring's not for everyone. And that's like, And it kind of sucks because I'm sure you have too, but I've seen that so much firsthand where it's like somebody comes on to tour, and I saw it on Warp Tour too, because, and obviously everyone wants to do Warp Tour until they're 3 weeks in and they're like, wow, this sucks. But, it's just like that. It's like I've watched it happen firsthand where people want to tour so bad, they finally get an opportunity and they just kind of crack because they knew what tour life was, but they didn't know how to cope with it. And I mean, I think me and you both had a view of touring before we started touring, and then got on tour and was like, wait, this isn't anything like I thought it was. Not that it's bad or any worse. It's just, it's a curve that you have to get over that nobody really prepares you for. There's no way to really prepare for it unless you work a job like that. Traveling a lot and sleeping on, van floors or bandwagon buses or hotel rooms. It's just like, it never gets easier. Even like I can speak, even touring with bands where I get my own hotel room on days off and like, we have multiple days off. It doesn't really get easier. Yeah. It's like, I'm comfortable and I have the air quotes luxury of having my own hotel room and everything, but it's still like you're not familiar with the area. You can't go hang out with like friends unless you have some in the area, but it's just, you never get a full sense of like comfortability, and every day is something new. Every day could be anything new, whereas when you're home, you pretty much know what your routine or everything's going to be. Yeah, you can go do something new and it might be, different, but I feel like that's how every day is on tour, and having that every day is just, there's not really any time to relax. And I think that's the hardest part to get over, is you have to understand that, okay, when I'm on tour, I'm never really going to be fully relaxed because there's always something coming up I have to do. There's always either a show the next day, or there's an off day where you want to relax so bad you don't actually relax because you're just thinking about, oh, I have the show tomorrow.
Yeah,
or
and
we have to do this.
Wait for the entire band and like 4 people in front of you to take a shower. Like, obviously when you have your own room, it's different. But like, like the luxury of being able to take a shit whenever you want is amazing when you're home. But if you're on a tour bus and you are in the middle of a 12-hour drive, you better hope someone else needs to take a shit too, because you don't want to be the person that has, the bus driver pull over for. Like,
oh, shower. It's showers for me.
Bag it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. Being able to take a shower anytime I want at home is like, oh, I feel like a goddamn king. Like my own shower, like my own soap and everything, not me out of a toiletry bag on a chair next to the shower, like getting my little tiny travel size shampoo that I brought with and shit. It's like, nah, like I have the full bottle here at home.
Right. So yeah, for anyone wanting to, tour, and by the way, anything I'm about to say, don't actually do it. So what you got to do to prep for tour is, all right, say you have plans to shower. All right, well now maybe wait 8 hours. Do that, wait to shower, And then if you have to take a shit, maybe try and hold it as long as you can, pacing back and forth, maybe for like an hour or two, until you maybe have to like ask someone for permission or something like that. And then maybe try to like sleep in a closet for a month.
While also eating pretty terrible food.
Yes.
Especially late at night.
Yes. There might be sometimes you have to throw out your, DoorDash or something because it's absolute trash. And you're like, I'd rather be hungry than like violently ill.
Love that.
It's great. And if you drink, learn to hold your liquor.
Oh God. I'll tell you what, there is nothing worse than being hungover on a show day.
Oh,
that is something that I, especially now, like being in my late 20s and not my early 20s, dude, there's definitely a difference. Like the other night I had like 3 or 4 beers with my buddy while we were watching the Bills game. And the next day I woke up and I was like, yo, what the fuck just happened to me? Like it took me a few hours to recover. And I was like, I barely drank anything. Like, sometimes it's just like that, but that's a whole nother like level on top of touring, is like getting through the day and being, just comfortable and whatever. That's one thing. But if you add alcohol in the mix, because most of the time alcohol is just free on your rider, you don't even have to pay for it. Dude. Or there's a bar there's 20 bars within walking distance from you because you're always in an area where there's bars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, usual rider. I mean, I'm sure it gets bigger as the bands go up and whatnot, but like I'd say for 90% of my touring career, like the rider just on booze, not talking food, but like you had a bottle of Jameson and a bottle of like Grey Goose and then like a 30 rack of beer.
Yep.
And then everyone had like their own shit. And then you hoard bottles because like you didn't drink the liter that you got from the other show. So now like under the sink in the bus, there's like 6 bottles of Jameson. Like that was the Mice Men bus. It was crazy. We had everything.
Dude, it happens.
Perfect. Yeah,
happens all too often. Like especially with the Wage War. Like, dude, those boys, and it's hard too because they're my homies. Like, they're not just someone I tour with that I call friends. Like outside of touring, like they are homies, and I love that I'm growing with them as they get bigger. But I mean, dude, that I can't tell you on how many times on like the last tour we did. We just got done with a tour with Beartooth a few months ago, but or no, actually, okay, it was that tour. I can't tell you how many nights I had to go get like a second bottle from the rider from hospitality or something, because those boys just like to drink, and it sucks because when they want to drink and I'm like, no, and they're like, oh, come on. It's like, oh, okay, I'll have one. Right. But those boys like to drink. And dude, that is like constant days where it was a pretty rough morning for them until about, like 1 p.m. And then everyone started to, get over it. But that's all. And I know the Mice Men guys too. Like, I know those guys. I think they still probably party pretty hard. But I know in the days you were touring with them, whew, I mean, that was a party bus.
The last time that I toured with them, which was, I think that was maybe the third to last tour. So like 2019. So it's not too far off. But like we were still partying, but it wasn't as, it wasn't every night or anything. It was still a lot, but like, because when we did. But I remember, I mean, I went to, where was it? Overseas with the Mice Men guys, and it was the tour that Wage War was on. So that was a doozy.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I did not. That was, I think, the tour before I started TMing them, or maybe I was already working for them, but I didn't go to Europe. I don't remember. But I bet that was a doozy. I bet that was a especially in Europe too, because in Europe there's like a little bit more of a level of like miserable. So you have to
rainy.
You just kind of have to drink. I call it, me and the Wage dudes, we just call it the big sad. Like whenever I have to go to Europe, it's just always the big sad, because it's fun to like go and play the shows to different cultures. Like that's always great. But like at the end of the day, it's just like you usually go over in the winter. So it's either freezing cold or you do the dead of summer with the European festivals and it's hot as hell. There's no touring time over there where it's like super nice. It's always either super rough or super hot. So it's like, and plus then you're not familiar because you're not home. And so it's like, if you like, and I find this all the time too. It's like, I was sick in Paris one time and like, I had to go get medicine, and I just like looked up the nearest like pharmacy thing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go. Dude, I had to walk around with like a little translator app on my phone and just like pick up every like box and like look and see what it translated to. And I was like trying to tell the people there like what I needed or what I wanted, because I think I just wanted the equivalent of like NyQuil and Dayquil and like maybe Motrin or something. And they just had no idea. Like, and the stuff I got was like, they told me like, oh yeah, this is the stuff that you would need if you have this and this. But it's like, it's just completely different stuff over there. So it's like, that's a big like curve too, of just like, you're not comfortable over there because you don't know where you can go and get. So like, if I get sick anywhere here in the US, it's like, I know I'm looking for a Walgreens, a CVS, or, whatever. And it's like over there, it's like, I have to like look up everything. It's just a little more inconvenient. And it's just like, sometimes I walk into a place like that and nobody in there speaks any English. And then I'm stuck with the whole, like, do I just leave or do I try to be that American guy that goes up to somebody with a translator app on their phone and it's just like, can you help me? And then show them the phone, and chances are they're not going to be a nice person. So it's, it's just a life curve over there.
I agree. Well, dude, what's kind of to close this shit out? I mean, you had a crazy ass 14-week stretch, busy ass year. going into this new year, hopefully it's better for the, I guess the fucking universe, I guess. But I'm sure there's stuff you can't talk about because it's not released or anything. But what's kind of your year looking like?
So what can I say?
Without getting yourself in trouble. Yeah.
No, it's okay. So the first thing I have back is Wage War is supporting Falling in Reverse on their tour.
Okay.
So that'll be fun. We're direct support for them, and it's with like Hawthorne Heights and Jairus Johnson, who's
it's
like
a weird lineup.
It's the original lineup I knew about, which I won't say because I'll tell you off podcast, but like going from the original lineup it was supposed to be to what it is, I'm just like, yo, this is nuts. Like it's such a diverse lineup, but it's like it's gonna crush.
Yeah,
like it's gonna be cool. And then after that we go to Europe. We are direct support for I Prevail over there, which will be some big shows, and I love the I Prevail guys. So that'll be cool. And then after that, nothing I can really announce yet or anything. Okay. I have started working with Knotfest more, so I think in some capacity I'll be working with them next year, which I think will be involving like their content teams for all the Knotfests they're going to have next year. But there's still plenty of discussions to have. But I know in one way or another I'm going to be connected working with them on that, which is big because again that's like project oriented stuff that I was talking about. So that'll be a lot of fun, and that will only be like, I think it's like in August is the Finland one, or whatever the schedule is. Because I think they just announced all of them. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, some touring. I'll mainly be with Wage War next year. Doing the TM thing, and now that they've kind of moved up to like being able to hire crew, I can kind of do some TM and like video stuff and help them out with that. But I'm just kind of open to, whatever. I'm hoping to work more with Trivium next year, which I'm sure I will. And, the other slew of bands that I work with, I'm sure I'll be able to fit in stuff. But yeah, on the books, that's all for right now.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's going good.
Right on. Well, obviously, this is the third time you're on the podcast, not the last time. Maybe, I don't know, after your next run, maybe towards the end of the year or whenever, we'll link back up and see if anything we talked about came to fruition and whatnot. So
speaking it into the universe now, manifesting.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, dude, thank you again, man. I appreciate it. When you hit me up,
dude, I love coming on here and just riffing, because it's like, I like, even when like, because I saw your text when I was looking through today, and it was like, is there anything you want to talk about? And I didn't even reply back to it, because I'm just like, I don't think we need to. Like, once we start on like one little topic or get on a discussion, it's just like we can just kind of flow with it, and that's what.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I like. And plus, it's like we're homies, so I'm always down to hop on and just chat for an hour.
Yeah, I had like a couple of notes. I'm talking like 4 notes, and I didn't even have it open, because I was like, we had the whole thing in the beginning where like the connection cut out, and the wind outside is like 40, 50 miles, gusts. I'm like, what the f is going on here? But we covered literally the only notes that I had, and then some. So it just flows well. And I just appreciate you for hitting me up to be on it, and then, coming on. So
yeah, dude, absolutely. Literally anytime. Like, and because like maybe we talk about music stuff, but dude, you want to riff on like some conspiracy theories or something? Like, I'm all
right. Yeah. On the book for sure. We got to talk about just like some other shit besides music. It's going to happen, but
yeah. Oh man, I could go into that for hours.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. We'll have to link up on text and whatnot. We'll figure something out. It could be honestly before the new year if we really want. I'm down.
Dude, I said, whenever I'll make time.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, again, thank you. And I'll talk to you soon, man. Take care.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Podcast.